Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome at this live session hosted by trade union the Unie. Good to have you here. The session has been organized on behalf of the Unie to introduce trade union the Unie to you as employees of VodafoneZiggo, to tell you more about who we are, how we work for you at VodafoneZiggo, to tell you something about the process that we have in place to allow you as an employee to be part of the CLA negotiations, and of course to introduce ourselves. Specifically, my colleague Jan Admiraal, who's sitting next to me. He's the main person at this side of the table. Just give you a heads up, I'm going to speak English during this live session. There will be subtitles provided, and that allows Jan to speak in Dutch because he's much more familiar speaking his mother tongue. So we hope that the subtitles will provide you enough information about what he's going to say. But I will be the one who's mainly speaking during this live sessions. We have a Q&A, so there is every opportunity to ask questions during the live session. Please feel free to address questions during the session. I will try to pick out some questions that are relevant at that point, and then there will be extra time, of course, available afterwards to address all additional questions that come across. If there are any questions during the coming months or any time, you can always address us via VodafoneZiggo at unie.nl. You can find all the information on the same website where you found the link to this live session, unie.nl/VodafoneZiggo, and we'll come back with live sessions further on in the process to inform you about the progress that we're making. Well, first of all, let's give a short introduction on Jan. Jan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Dankjewel Bart. Welkom, goedemiddag. Leuk jullie te treffen. Mijn naam is Jan Admiraal. Ik ben al meer dan 30 jaar belangenbehartiger onderhandelaar bij vakbond de Unie en nauw betrokken bij een veelheid aan cao's en soms ook sociale plannen. Ik doe het werk met veel plezier en veel inzet en telke keer en telke malen uiteraard in het belang van de werknemers en van de leden van de Unie. Dankjewel.
Well, the Unie is present at VodafoneZiggo for 2 years now, and because of the fact that a new CLA round and some negotiations, or at least discussions on the social plan, are actual at this point, we think it's important to introduce ourselves again and allow you to get acquainted to who we are, who the Unie is, how we work. Let's start with a brief introduction on that. The Unie is a trade union, first of all. We have 35,000 members in various different companies and sectors, and we are a party to over 200 CLAs, collective labor agreements, on behalf of those members and, in more cases, all the employees. And I will tell you more about that in a few moments. What we do as a trade union is we make agreements with employers on salary, on vacation days, on personal development, all kinds of topics that are eventually laid down in a collective labor agreement, the CLA. And these CLAs affect, in the case of the Unie, approximately 1.5 million employees throughout the Netherlands. Next to that, we are also a trade union that is involved in individual counseling. So those 35,000 members we have, they get support by us, by our lawyers, by our professionals who assist them in any question regarding their work and income situation, regarding pension, regarding social security, everything that concerns their working and pension life, and we help them with that. We are only 2 years at VodafoneZiggo, but we have already a history of over 100 years. The Unie exists for over 100 years, so we have an extensive legacy and experience in trade union work. We are also affiliated to Trade Union Confederation for Professionals, VCP, which is one of the 3 trade union confederations we have in the Netherlands, next to FNV and CNV. And in the VCP, the Trade Union Confederation, we are concerned with the more national issues, like, for example, the pension reform, or labor law issues, labor law reforms, labor market issues. We discuss them in what we call the Social Economic Council, for example. That's an advisory board of our government regarding social economic issues. And we're represented there as well. And the agreements we make there, and of course, the issues that are addressed there also have an effect on how we, how we negotiate in the companies, in the sectors, and we keep those issues in mind as well. As mentioned, we are a trade union that is active in a various number of companies and sectors throughout the Netherlands, and here you can see a glimpse of several companies and sectors where the Unie is active, where you can find us at the negotiation table, where you can find our members, companies like the finance sector, ING, Rabobank, Achmea. We're the largest in the financial sector, but we're also active in the metal sector, with Electro-CO, companies like Philips, retail non-food sector, e-commerce, security, basically throughout the entire BV Nederland, how you say that, the Unie is active there. So we have an extensive experience and knowledge of labor relations, labor conditions in all those kinds of organizations. Also like companies like KPN, which is a relevant organization related to VodafoneZiggo negotiations. Well, when we look at the presence of trade unions within organizations and sectors, we have a challenge, and I would like to address that challenge to you. The representativeness of trade unions is under pressure. As trade unions, we represent members traditionally, but the work we do affects 87% of the workforce in the Netherlands. So 87% of all the employees in the Netherlands are affected by the agreements we negotiate at the collective labor agreement table. But if you look at how many of those employees are actually involved in this social dialogue, have a say, have an opportunity to give input in the negotiations, and eventually have a say in if that CLA will definitely become in place, that's only 14%. And those 14%, it's declining. That's the number, that's a percentage of workers that are organized in a trade union and are our members. Our members haven't seen all the trade unions combined. But if you look into that figure more in depth and you analyze how many of these members are actually active in the social dialogue, so they come up, they show up at meetings, trade union meetings, they respond to our questions and our questionnaires on what we have to do for them at the negotiation table, that is even a lower percentage. It's only 2% that is actually active in the dialogue. From a statistic point of view, this could be all right if it would be a representative figure related to the workforce, but unfortunately that is not the case. The 14% is mainly consists out of 50-plus-year-old men. It's a bit, I'm exaggerating, but it's an average. It's not representative for the entire workforce at all, especially younger people, younger workers, women. Atypical workers are not represented with trade unions. So that's a challenge for us to involve them as well. So increasingly, the question is at the table, are you as a trade union still legitimate to negotiate on behalf of employees when it comes to conditions that apply to everybody? We increasingly end up in situations like this, where we as a trade union face the employer with viewpoints that are not supported by the employees anymore, because they're not a member of us anymore. They're not involved in the dialogue. And the employer, from his point of view, is ivory tower, as we say that. He also thinks he knows what his employees consider is important. But the employee that is at stake is not involved anymore. he's in the background. He is not a member of the trade union. He's not involved in the dialogue. But everything we do at the negotiation table is actually for him. It's meant for him. And that's a situation we want to solve. It's a situation that has political attention as well, because we in the Netherlands have also collective labor agreements that have to be made applicable for an entire sector, for example, and it has to be done by the Minister of Social Affairs. And he increasingly addresses us as trade unions. Who are you representing? Why should I do that? Because I'm not sure that you're really representing the interests of the employees within that sector if you have so little members. This has been an issue in the Social Economic Council as well. As mentioned before, we represented via the Trade Union Confederation VCP in this Social Economic Council. And in 2013, together with FNV, CNV, and the employer organizations, we advised ourselves to involve as many employees as possible in the collective agreement consultations to compensate for low union density, in order to increase the legitimacy of the unions. And it's a pretty fundamental step that has been taken there, or at least a step as an advice to ourselves. And we've taken this point in history very seriously. This was for us the moment that we decided to actively start allowing non-union members to participate in the social dialogues where the Unie is active. And this is a process that is still going on. We're not working on the basis of the principle that everybody in the organization can have a say and can participate in the social dialogue. We increasingly address more CLA tables with this model because it's an intensive model. It's very labor intensive. It also requires all the relevant stakeholders, including the employer, to commit to a process like this. So that is something we're working on towards the future. In the case of VodafoneZiggo, we have taken that step 2 years ago. Well, what does this process actually mean? How are we going to involve you, all the employees at VodafoneZiggo, in the social dialogue concerning the CLA negotiations and the negotiations concerning the social plan? Well, to make sure that the voice of the employee is heard in this process and that nobody can argue that this is the voice of the employee, we have invented a process in collaboration with InnoVoice, which is a research agency that we have extensive experience with throughout our history as a trade union, with researchers regarding all kinds of topics on the labor market, where we participated with them already, collaborated with them already. We've designed a process together with them where the research agency supports the CLA table in investigating what the needs, wishes, and concerns of the employees are regarding their labor conditions. And that forms the starting point of the negotiation with the employer. This process starts with a handshake, which is a very important step, because it means that all stakeholders involved in this process at the CLA table, and that can include other trade unions as well. It's a process that is offered to the CLA table as a whole, so everybody can participate in that. The handshake is meant to give commitment to this process, that we all consider it important to listen to the voice of all the employees, and that should be the starting point for the negotiations. That means putting everything on the table, being transparent, and there are no taboos regarding questions that are being asked at employees to make sure that everything gets at the table to negotiate on. We start with a kickoff, basically, making an inventarization of what needs to be done. How are we going to communicate about the process? How are we going to involve all the employees? How are we going to make sure that everybody understands what the different roles of all the stakeholders in this process are? What's the role of the trade union? What's the role of the research agency? I think very important specifically in this presentation, to give you more understanding on what the specific role of us as a trade union is in this process. The first step, the first step is that the research agency organizes so-called panel discussions. As an employee, everybody, member or non-member, doesn't matter, you can sign up for these panel discussions. These panel discussions, they're open discussions. We as a trade union don't want to start with telling you what you have to think. No, we want you to think for yourself in the beginning what's important for you regarding your labor conditions, and that should be the starting point of the discussion. And the panel discussions are meant to facilitate that process, to allow you to say anything you like, and to make sure that all the themes, all the worries, all the concerns, all the priorities are inventoried or investigated and used in the further process that prepares us for the negotiations. Well, in these panel discussions, they will be moderated by a researcher who has extensive experience with labor conditions and collective labor agreements. So he is able to also go in depth with the real, the topic that is at the table. Next to, after the panel discussions, we will get feedback from the research agency at the CLA table to discuss what has been brought up by the panel discussions. And this output is for us a starting point to have an understanding of what is going on in the organization, how employees consider their labor conditions. And the research agency is now going to prepare a survey based on these panel discussions. And the survey will be sent out to all employees to allow everybody to be part of providing input for the negotiations. For us as a trade union, this is a very important step because it's our role in this process to make sure that the translation from the panel discussions to the survey is done in a proper manner, but also to have a say in how the survey should look like regarding the output we need to make a good proposal letter. So everything that comes out of the survey should be relevant for us to be able to take a standpoint on behalf of the employees. So we will be actively part of this process. After the survey has been filled in by the employees, there will be a preliminary report that will be presented by the research agency in a voice to the CLA table, and there we will have a first insight into the results, and we have the opportunity to ask questions to the survey, to the research agency, like that's an interesting result. Can you go into more depth into the data to see, what people that have answered this answered at question 7, what have they answered at question 8, so we can have more understanding of what's going on. And with some of the questions, we cannot find the answer in the data, but these questions can be brought back to the panel members from the previous panel discussions to present to them the research report first. They will get a premiere of the research report, and in addition, they will be asked the questions that we have at the CLA table to have a more in-depth understanding of the results, and perhaps in some cases also to anticipate anticipate on specific solutions, for example. You can perhaps have a brainstorm about that already. If that has been done, there will be a definite report where all the feedback from the panel discussions is also part of, and then that definite report will be presented to everybody. So everybody in the organization will have the opportunity to read the results, and we will have a presentation at the CLA table hosted by the research agency. And for us as a trade union, that is when the real work for us begins, because now we have a good understanding of what the employees consider is important. And as you can see here, those are extensive reports that are being produced. So it gives a lot of information, a lot of in-depth information, a lot of factual information about what people think. And for us, that is the starting point of the negotiations. I'm getting a question here about the report. What is the next step for us when we have the results? Well, for us, the next step is to use the information that is derived from this report in combination with the extensive experience the negotiator Jan Admiraal in this case, and of course the team at the Unie has to translate those insights into proposal letter for the employer. And here you can see the example of the proposal letter that has been used in the previous round with VodafoneZiggo, where we make a link between what is stated in the report and how we translate it based on our experiences and our expertise towards proposals that are the starting point of the negotiation with the employer. And the role of the trade union in this step is to, from our experience and how it's best to translate, certain issues and worries and priorities employees have brought up in the research, to translate it into a relevant proposal that is up for negotiation. Well, during the negotiation, there is only one focus point for the Unie, and maybe Jan, you would like to address how that works in the negotiations.
Ja, first of all, nee, laat ik in het Nederlands verder gaan. Ik heb iemand naast mij die Engels praat, dus voor ik het weet ga ik ook in Engels praten, maar ik heb toch de voorkeur om het aan te geven in het Nederlands. Ik denk dat het goed is, maar dat is ook wel in zekere zin in de voorgaande sheets wel tot uitdrukking gekomen. DigiC is geen doel op zich. DigiC is een middel om tegemoet te komen om het probleem te ondervangen van de lage representativiteit van de normale traditionele vakorganisaties. Dat is een belangrijk punt wat ik even nog wilde maken. Vervolgens ga ik, want dat mag ik doen, ga ik op basis van de uitkomsten van de survey ga ik die onderhandelingen in. En uiteindelijk komt daar iets uit. Althans, daar ga ik vanuit dat er uit die onderhandelingen een resultaat komt. En de bedoeling is, ook weer typisch DigiC, een belangrijk kenmerk, dat gaan wij voorleggen aan alle medewerkers, wat zij vinden van het resultaat. En je zou kunnen zeggen, hoewel de praktijk bij een aantal andere bedrijven met DigiC ons iets scherper heeft gemaakt, je zou kunnen zeggen, wij leggen DigiC de uitkomst van de onderhandelingen voor aan u, aan de werknemers, van roept u maar, zegt u maar, wat vindt u ervan? Maar we hebben wel gemerkt, en dat proberen we ook te doen, dat hebben we ook wel gedaan, maar we gaan het nog beter doen, dat veel werknemers ook wel graag willen horen van de professionals, van mij, maar ook van de organisatie de Unie, want wij hebben een brede blik. Wat vinden jullie ervan? Dat zal bij veel mensen niet de doorslag geven, maar het is wel belangrijk om dat goed over het voetlicht te brengen, ook wat wij ervan vinden. En als het niet goed is of niet goed genoeg is, dan zullen we daar ook een bepaalde kwalificatie bij doen. Minder strak als in een traditionele situatie. Dan kun je als traditionele vakbond wel zeggen, het is helemaal niks, dus u moet tegenstemmen. Nee, maar wij kunnen wel zeggen, nou, in vergelijking met andere bedrijven of met andere cao's of met andere sociale plannen, is dit iets beneden de maat of beneden het gemiddelde. Dat soort kwalificaties gaan wij dan geven, waarna vervolgens alle medewerkers hun eigen afweging gaan maken en hun stem gaan uitbrengen op het onderhandelingsresultaat.
That's true, totally true. Thank you, Jan. As you mentioned, everybody in the organization, every employee at VodafoneZiggo has a say in the final decision if that CLA will become applicable. The voting process that will be in place will be organized by InnoVoice as well. So there will be a transparent, independent voting that everybody can participate in. And it's very important in this phase for you as an employee to come to sessions organized by the Unie to hear from us what we think about the negotiation result, so you can make an informed decision. You will have all the opportunity, of course, to address us throughout the process via email, via sessions like these that we will organize on a regular basis. And that will allow you to have, to have a good informed decision about the final result. Just to have a brief look back at the CLA negotiations 2022-2023, the CLA that is in place right now. We have gone through this process once before at VodafoneZiggo. The last negotiations didn't went well in the first round. As you can see here, 4,692 employees participated in the voting for the first negotiation result last year, and that was 70% of the workforce. 16% voted no. And from analyzing the results, where in the voting you as an employee can comment your vote, and that allows us to understand, the reason behind a vote yes or a vote for no, and the motivation given for this no vote in the first round was based on the social plan that was part of the result, the new social plan, and the salary, the collective salary increase. So we took this back to the negotiation table, and we used this to negotiate with VodafoneZiggo on a better deal. That eventually led to a better deal. Social plan was taken out of the result, and eventually in the second round, 83% of the employees voted, and 67% voted yes. That is a majority, but it's not a majority to be proud of, because it's our goal, of course, to make an agreement that has the largest possible majority. But eventually, what is, in our opinion, a great step forward in this approach is that now, instead of maybe only 5% of the employees would have voted via the traditional trade union route, now 83% of the workforce has given their vote to the eventual end result. If we now look forward towards the next CLA negotiations, this CLA will end the end of 2023. So we'll soon start the preparations for the next consultation round in preparation for the negotiations. But at this moment, we're also invited by VodafoneZiggo to have a discussion on the social plan, as it has been the desire of VodafoneZiggo to replace the current social plan, or replace or have a new social plan, as the last social plan that is now in place expired on the 1st of January 2022. And until we have a new agreement on a new social plan, the current social plan will still be in place. But this is something VodafoneZiggo would like to discuss with us. We, of course, will use the process as explained to you, to have, first of all, to give you the opportunity to give input on what you think is important regarding your social plan. And then, well, maybe Jan, you can explain a bit how we're going to address this issue.
Ja, het is misschien even goed om te zeggen, om ook even aan te geven hoe ik vanuit mijn jarenlange ervaring aankijk tegen CAO en sociaal plan. Het zijn weliswaar allebei twee collectieve regelingen, collectieve afspraken. Maar ik zie daar een wezenlijk verschil in. Een CAO gaat over het verbeteren in zijn algemeenheid. Het verbeteren van arbeidsvoorwaarden. Een oude collega zei wel eens tegen mij van een vakbond is opgericht om arbeidsvoorwaarden te verbeteren. En dat doen we ook. En dat doen we heel vaak in die CAO's. En vaak is dat ook het resultaat van onderhandelen bij een CAO. Met een CAO, daar heb je je hebt dagelijks ook te maken met een CAO, want je werkt elke dag. En je werkt elke dag op basis van een arbeidsovereenkomst. En die CAO is eigenlijk ook een arbeidsovereenkomst, zij het collectief, maar het maakt een belangrijk deel uit van je individuele arbeidsovereenkomst. Een sociaal plan spreek je liever niet af. Een sociaal plan spreek je af omdat er iets vervelends gebeurt bij een organisatie. Om het een beetje simpel uit te drukken. Vaak heeft het te maken met achteruitgang in functies, andere functies, maar ook het verdwijnen van functies, ontslag. Veel mensen komen niet in aanraking met een sociaal plan. Gelukkig maar. Gelukkig maar. Dan zou je kunnen zeggen, nou, niet zo belangrijk. Maar Mijn opvatting is dat een sociaal plan ongelooflijk belangrijk is. Want als je er als individu mee te maken krijgt, nou dan raakt dat je ook direct, met name ook materieel, ook wel psychisch, maar met name ook in materiële zin. Het verliezen van je baan heeft direct effect op je inkomsten, op je portemonnee. Dus daarom vinden wij onderhandelen van sociaal plan zeer precair en zeer belangrijk. En ik wil benadrukken, in de traditionele setting onderhandelen we als vakbonden, als Unie, onderhandelen we over een sociaal plan namens onze leden. Maar ik wil zeggen, we doen het nou via DGC, om de reden die we net hebben aangegeven. En mijn opvatting is, en zo zit ik er ook in, of ik nou namens een groep leden onderhandel, of ik onderhandel namens alle werknemers. Je zou bijna kunnen zeggen, het laatste is nog wel belangrijker. Maar mijn opstelling verandert daardoor dus helemaal niet. Ik heb oog voor alle belangen van alle medewerkers. En zeker ook bij VodafoneZiggo.
Thank you, Jan. I'm getting a few questions here. Just to address one of them first. We've mentioned that we give an explanation on what our view on the negotiation result is, but the person who was asking the question has missed that step in the last round. Where can I find the explanation of the Unie? Well, that's a challenge for us. Of course, we're only active for 2 years now at VodafoneZiggo. The first year, the reach that we have, the audience we have within VodafoneZiggo, we have to build it up. We only have a few members that we can address directly. And VodafoneZiggo has some facilities, of course, that are offered to the participating trade unions to communicate with the employees, but that's limited because we have to have our independent channels to present our point of view to you. So we're working on that to have a better reach and to of course to try to address you in the best way possible. But if you want to have direct information from us, you can become a member of the Unie. That is not needed to be part of the dialogue because you can also always participate in that via this process. But by becoming member of the trade union, becoming member of the Unie, it can be for free as well. You at least have the opportunity to get the information directly from us, and you don't have to search for it. So that's definitely something we're addressing right now. Another question is why do other unions not participate in the social dialogue at this point? Well, as communicated by VodafoneZiggo, the other trade unions are not currently participating in the social dialogue regarding the social plan. And let's first of all, it's not up to us. The negotiation table, who sits at the negotiation table, is decided by the employer. And it's our desire to have as many trade unions participate in that dialogue. We have put that forward to VodafoneZiggo, so it's definitely, it's not our choice to not have them be part of the dialogue. Everybody can participate in the model, in the DGC model as well. But eventually, it is their decision, and you could argue we have to withdraw from the negotiating table as well if the others are not allowed to join. But that is a more principled point of view. As we involve all the employees in the social dialogue, there is no theoretical need for other trade unions to be part of the dialogue as well if they do not at least choose to recognize the model that is in place at VodafoneZiggo, that everybody has a say in the process. So we promote their presence at the CLA table, but it's eventually the decision of VodafoneZiggo. I have another question that's coming in. How is the Unie being financed for their work? Well, that's a good question. Trade unions in the Netherlands are being financed by, first of all, membership fees, but because of the fact that the past 15 years, memberships have been declining so fast, as you have seen in the previous sheets, that membership fees only are not sufficient to be part of all these CLA table negotiations and to do the work of us in a properly manner. So we have agreed with the employers in practically every sector and organization in the Netherlands to get an employee funding. This employee funding is now approximately 22 euros per employee per year that is being paid to the trade unions involved in the social dialogue. And that allows us to be a professional negotiator and to do the work we have to do on behalf of the employees. So is the case at VodafoneZiggo. So was the case at VodafoneZiggo already before the Unie joined the CLA table. And we made the agreement with VodafoneZiggo that we need to do, in order to do our work in a properly manner, 40,000 euros a year. That is also part of the CLA now in 2022-2023. You can read about that in the CLA document. That's the only income that we get from VodafoneZiggo. The research agency Innovoice is separately being paid by the employer, but the research agency works for the CLA table, so it's being facilitated by the employer. We do not get any funding from that. We are not shareholders. We do not get any kickback fees. The only income that we get is these 40,000 euros a year to be able to do our work at VodafoneZiggo. Well, what I think is also important to address, we've already mentioned that you do not have to become a member of the Unie to be part of the social dialogue. That's open for everybody. If you become a member, you can become a free member. You can get direct information from us. That is to be recommended. But there is also an opportunity for you to become a paid member of the Unie, like the other 35,000 members that are already paying membership fees to the Unie. And in return, you get very good individual support from our experts on the field of work, income, pension, career, well, all kinds of areas you can see here on the sheet where we can help you in individual problems and questions. So it's definitely interesting to look into that as well. Let's see if we do have some other questions. Yeah, there are some questions that go regarding the concerns that in the case of the social plan, we have to be aware of the fact that there is a majority in the organization that has something to gain with the new proposals from VodafoneZiggo, as proposed in the last CLA negotiations, and that there is a minority that has potential to lose something in the new proposals proposed by VodafoneZiggo. How are we going to address that as we, of course, listen to the majority? Well, I think it's important, as I think Jan also explained, it's our job as a trade union to have an eye for all the different interests that are at stake. So it doesn't mean that we're just only looking to a majority in the negotiations. We are looking at the interests of everybody in the organization and try to make a proper deal that is acceptable for everybody. That is our goal, that is our mission, and we will assess what is at the table and what is needed to negotiate upon at the point VodafoneZiggo addresses this to us. And well, it's our job to be very critical about that as well.
Het zal niet zo zijn. Het kan niet zo zijn, maar laat ik het zo zeggen, het zal niet zo zijn dat als een bepaalde groep of een behoorlijke meerderheid, dat als we daar betere afspraken van maken, het sociaal plan, dan dat ze in het huidige sociaal plan zijn, dat het dan in feite, om het zo maar even kort door de bocht te zeggen, zal worden gefinancierd door een kleinere groep die erop achteruit gaat. Daar waken wij voor. Daar schieten we ook helemaal niks mee op, ook in de onderlinge verhoudingen niet. En dat is ook niet de manier waarop wij een nieuw sociaal plan willen gaan afspreken. We willen de belangen van alle groeperingen, alle belanghebbenden, evenwichtig blijven behandelen.
And it's good to be aware of the fact that in the last CLA round, the social plan, as it was proposed by VodafoneZiggo, did get some critique, and that critique will be, well, that will be on the table. So VodafoneZiggo has a challenge to come with a better proposal that better suits, the interests of the employees. But first of all, it's up to you to give this input. We're not going to say what we think before we have listened to you and have allowed you to have input. And then with all that information gathered, we will go to the negotiation table and see where we will get. I think if there are not any other questions, I think the most of the questions that have been asked have been addressed already. I think well, we're a little ahead of schedule, but fortunately, I think the explanation has been clear to you. So I would like to very much thank you for your attention during this live stream. As mentioned before, this live stream will be the first of others to follow, and the recording will be available at YouTube at our website, so you can always look back. And if you have any further questions, you can also always address us at VodafoneZiggo@unie.nl. I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day and see you soon.
See you.